sun is slowly sinking down, and the moon is surely rising, so this old world must still be spinning round, and I still love you. Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. I brought my helper today because I think it's really important in mental health, which is what I'm trying to do here, is have a conversation about mental health and skills work and how to help people build skills in their life, and a job especially as a focus of this channel, which is the arms worker or the mental health skills worker in the field. So instead of a real baby, I thought I would bring in a little helper just to talk about the ways that skills workers do address the work of building healthy attachment and helping clients and humans to have healthy attachments in their relationships and development of perhaps even their own kids, grandkids, healthy attachment in the community. How can we teach that? How can we model that? How can we build skills towards attachment? It's another really big, huge topic. But like these other things, I do believe that there are basic skills and basic concepts that we can take in as a reminder. Maybe some things are new skills, but here's a few tangible things about attachment. I want to start with the positives. Yay! Because why not? And if you want to stick around, I would talk a little bit about, maybe if this doesn't run too long, about the downsides of not having good attachments, some of the things that we do. I'm developing for myself somewhat of this model based on the compass of shame, which I admire so much as a model, because the compass of shame tells us that when we encounter a bad feeling, an embarrassment, a disappointment, or a shame, that we can do counterproductive things, or we can sit in that feeling and do productive things. So I'm building on that concept and that skill, because I think it's just so helpful in the skills work that we do to reduce distress, increase functioning, and to celebrate life better, or to build more meaning is another way to say that. So what can we do to teach clients? Maybe they've never had a baby before, maybe they are struggling with a baby, whatever reason. What are some healthy ways to bond with your baby, or to help clients bond with a baby, or to build attachment? So one thing that we learn is skin to skin contact. So I did kind of wear something where you could just sort of formalize, you're gonna spend time connecting in a tangible way with your baby if you're gonna have healthy attachment, and it's okay, and you really should. So I thought just realizing that being close and being safe is a modeling, just that's obvious way that how we build attachment. So skin to skin, holding a baby, being a safe place, playing, woo, singing. If you are into that, I sang my favorite lullaby that I always sing to my kids as I started this episode. But these are all great things. And then let's see. Oh, recently Princess Kate of England said such a great quote, she posted online, and she said, faces are baby's best toy. We can learn so much about, oh, I'm excited, I like you, I'm listening to you, I'm paying attention to you, I care about you, you're safe, we're okay, it's fun, or oh, what was that? This is how we learn. So thank you, baby. Or what do you think? This is just a conversation, so I'm just being a little goofy, but I just want to know, how do you think we bond? How do you talk to clients about how we bond? What is helpful? Yay. All right. So I did have another thought about babies, a small thing that we do. But before that, I think, remember, one thing that I really wanted out of this conversation was resources. So what are some good resources about attachment, or what are some things we could offer that are more, maybe just even like beautiful, rich ways to say, oh, this might help you attach, or this might help us attach, or this might help us in our relationship. You don't always have to say things so on point. We can offer clients, we can offer ourselves, we can offer people in our relationships ways to connect without saying it exactly that way. It's easier to apply these things to our little people, our young people, and you can be more creative and apply any of these things to relationships where you want to attach in a more mature adult sense too. But I just want to start with something, some sort of references, some sort of place to start a conversation about positive attachment skills, and how important that would be. So if we're going home to home and into lots of families, maybe we're even doing, here in Minnesota, it's called CTSS work, where we're doing child-focused skills and therapeutic work in a home setting. This is all a fantastic place to start. Maybe healing attachment, modeling good attachment, offering creative suggestions and creative, beautiful, tangible resources. So in that vein, because I always want to start with resources we can share, I grabbed a little stack of the kid items that I have here in our house. I found Calvin and Hobbes. This book's good. There's treasure everywhere. Also, Shel Silverstein is amazing. Just reading with your kids. I don't have the longest patience with some children's books and stuff, and I've found that it's totally okay for me to find things that I think are funny or cool, and share that compromise, and I kind of felt that Calvin and Hobbes was a good compromise. I wouldn't get bored, and also it's really short if you're just trying to captivate a child that doesn't really want to read with you that much. I love these. When I first had my son, I did not appreciate Goodnight Moon. I did not appreciate it enough. But there's something just so nice about, we just say goodnight to each little part of our room. And the more that I've been a parent, the longer that I've been alive as a person and looked at how everything about our emotional regulation, including like our attachment feelings and like how we developed, it all really can relate to our habits and how we're able to function and be competent and have good habits. And there's something in this book about a really big concept, like how do we have the ability to emotionally regulate and have habits and routines, and it has some kind of magical role modeling about that. And I'm not putting it into perfect words, but it's a great resource for kids and parents. I love Where the Wild Things Are. The movie remake that they did is a great movie to talk to kids or anyone about attachment. I think they did a great job in the beginning showing a rupture in attachment and having some threads that tie throughout the movie about attachment. So I think this book is also so beautiful, and it has like more of really a unique artistic feeling. My kids, some of them were scared of the book. It just has a lot of big feelings, or the movie. So I think it's really interesting and a good place to start. Picture dictionaries can draw the process of learning to talk and interact with the world, attachment, into learning how to read. Human anatomy. Understanding your body. And I think explaining a child's anatomy and body, this is a really in-depth one from a Kid Focus, but it can show like empowerment over the body. Like, it's my body. I know how to take care of my body. I know that it's mine. I know that, you, the adult, or you, the other person, respect that, that you're a safe place to be close, attached, nurture, hug, all those things we built as babies with each other. But it's my body. I know how it works. I'm empowered to care for it. I'm empowered to grow competency in an attached, secure way. That's what we want for ourselves. That's what we want for kids we raise or care for. Sort of in that vein, I thought this was really good. I had step teenagers before my oldest kids in my home were my step kids. And I felt like it was really good to have a book and just an externalizing for nervous conversations about how we take care of our bodies as we get older. I always thought those conversations could always be more dicey than they were in my experience, but I really liked this book, The Care and Keeping of You. And I think in helping kids take care of themselves properly, then it doesn't feel like an abandonment or an attachment wound. It feels like, hey, you have needs. I wrote some of from a previous episodes, my little formula about, so we have desire, we are born with desire, and then we also have environmental things that we see that we are going to want to desire, and it's going to really affect our relationships, our functioning, and our day-to-day life. That's what it's all about. What do we need to live? What do we need to thrive? What do we need for meaning? Everything. But sometimes we can tell kids that they need to take care of themselves, or we can be told that we need to care for ourselves, and that can really hurt in the world or the conversation of attachment. And be like, oh, well, you don't want to connect to me, you don't want to care for me, you don't, that feels like a pain and a wound and like a survival thing. Or we can just grow up knowing how to take care of ourselves or valuing taking care of ourselves. That value can come in at a lot of different prices, but valuing taking care of ourselves. So the best way that we could do that, I think, is whatever best way that we do that, then I think is great. We don't have to be attached by neediness, or we don't have to be attached by trying to get others to do things for us that we could do for ourselves. That's not healthy attachment. Also kind of the same, I think, is, maybe this is a silly one, but Green Eggs and Ham is a little bit about preference. How to be in the world, and have your wishes and desires, and then other people have theirs. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to eat it with you. I don't want to try it. I don't know. This happens in life. This is real life attachment. So I like that one too. These are kind of vintage, but I had collected the Little Miss or Mr. Whatever series, and it'll be like Little Miss Bossy or Little Miss Grumpy, or I think there's positive ones. Giggles, but Mr. Nonsense, Mr. Quiet, Little Miss Late. I don't know, I think they're very interesting. They're probably very dated. I haven't listened to these since my kids were really little, but we don't always, sometimes we're not big readers. It doesn't have to be reading with your child. These are just very good, tangible things, but I think a lot of us maybe don't even know or didn't grow up with the cassettes and the books, and you can just listen along and play it, and kids can read it themselves. There's just so many different things. If we nurture a positive environment in any way that we can with the creativity of our imagination, then that is also cultivating attachment. Or if we offer clients resources to do that with their families, every creative way is so awesome. We had a couple books that our family members gave us for like bedtime stories that were really lighthearted. This one's just stories about kindness. We also had one called Buddha at Bedtime, which was Buddhist stories. And it was really helpful for attachment to have bedtime routines, even though ours were not necessarily very standard, and I was really flexible with them. I guess I always did them for my kids, but we would sometimes take these segmented story time books and just know, like tomorrow night we're gonna read this one. Let's look ahead. Okay, well, we're done for tonight, but tomorrow we're gonna read this one. Okay, let's go to sleep. This one was good that we just read. Tomorrow we're gonna do this, and then and that's a really big deal. And that leads into a resource that I've said before on this channel that I love so much, which is a book called I Love You Rituals. And the example in the book that she gives is a student that was really hurting, and each day he would come into the classroom, she would try to shake hands, greet him, let him know he mattered, and let him know how important it was that he had shown up that day. And it really didn't seem to have an effect at first, and then over time that ritual was a great stabilizing factor in this other human being's life, and it just played out really beautifully. And it can be very meaningful for the person doing it, but it's just incredibly important that we always show up with this concept, this like beautiful ritual. It's not always appropriate for it to say like I love you ritual, but this beautiful ritual for clients. So just while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to double back to a little ritual or just a tangible skill that we can think about. And I kind of want to think, like, when I offer these baby skills that we might give to clients, or we might give to ourselves, or use, or remember, I want to think of like the other side of the coin. Like, what was this like? Was this basic need met in yourself or in the client that you're working with, or whatever, in this situation that you're dissecting and working on? Was this basic need met? Like Princess Kate said, faces are baby's best toy. If we know that and we like offer that as a skill, I just found that to be such beautiful wisdom. I just love her. But it was so succinct. It was so good. Because it's a good example of this skill. When we flip it over and we look at the other side, what does it mean as a developed person to know that this affects babies this way? Like, isn't this very profound? Faces are a baby's best toy. How do we feel when we look at the face of people that we love, our children, or a puppy face, the little faces? Like, this almost unspeakable beauty of life is at the heart of healthy attachment ruptures, these little tangible skills. The fact that skin-to-skin contact for babies is really helpful for them to develop feeling calm, emotionally stable, strong individuals. So let's just think of the flip side of all of those skills that we're offering, and maybe how it might even inform work with like adults or yourself always. So I brought in, when we're thinking about attachment, I brought something that I'm very attached to. My Speedy doll was my brother's doll, and he's 19 years older than me, so Speedy is like 20 years older than me, so he's been with me forever. I know babies should not wear hoods, but Speedy's hood does not come off, so I just thought he could help us. I have Speedy, and then I have the baby blanket that my oldest bio son's grandma gave us. So I just thought it might be kind of another tangible reminder, something we can kind of meditate on in the conversation about attachment. But the skill of like swaddling a baby and why we do that, and maybe I could just show on Speedy. But it's a something to explore about philosophy, the self, attachment, mental health, self-soothing, things like weighted blankets. But what if Speedy is very upset? Why does this help babies to swaddle them? I'm just asking the questions, and then I'm showing this skill. This is something, arms workers, mental health workers, and skill workers, they just do it all. They're going to go into the field, and it totally makes sense to do a skill building exercise that's as tangible as, oh, your baby needs to be in session, it's with us. How do you swaddle it? Is this your first baby? What was it like with your other babies before? what is it looking like when your baby's upset? Your baby's right here in session with us, maybe even, so too much explaining for Speedy. Speedy's gonna have to be upset while I'm talking too much, but so, and I love those swaddlers that come with the little feet sewn in and the Velcro. Those are great. Otherwise, taking a small square blanket, folding over this headpiece, and you can kind of cradle that in your arm, and putting the baby's back and shoulders here, sort of to that. You're gonna be mad and flailing around, and I think it can seem a little mean or restrictive, but I would try folding in the arms. We feel safe. We can't scratch our faces, and when we're this little, I like to choose Speedy versus my larger helper, who's more like a baby who would want to be playing with our faces and talking more, that size of baby. But when we're talking about swaddling, this is like our newborn experience of the world, right? We've come out, we used to have an umbilical cord, a perfect pod environment of the perfect temperature and everything, and we're thrust out, as I had said before, and I'd written sort of my equation here, but we're thrust out and we sort of have this original attachment wound where we're hungry, cold, and probably terrified, each and every one of us, and it creates desire, and we're going to have desire for our whole life. And then upon those desires are going to be layered our environmental triggers to desire. But anyway, we can start at the most basic sense with how do we provide somewhat of a comfort, like, hey, I know you're little and you were just brand new and your whole womb pod of safety and food was taken away, but we're mimicking it with the swaddling. So it seems all the way back here to this little flailing arm, but it seems a little restrictive. But I would always try folding in arms for a baby, and then I would just do that on both sides, really. And then taking the extra bit and folding under one arm around the tummy, like having flat with no wrinkles and warmth on a baby's tummy is really helpful. It's not that easy to go from having an umbilical cord to having to take anything in to the system, digest it. So there is just so much pain. Like, we don't think about it. We don't think about babies as the super warriors that they are. Like, they got their whole entire head squished. Like, sometimes they come out black and blue. Their little noses are completely bruised. They've got black eyes sometimes. Sometimes their faces. Honestly, my son came out and he looked completely like a gorilla baby, which, if any of you had those crazy dreams when you were pregnant, or those wild dreams, I should say, when you're pregnant, that, you gave birth to strange things, like, babies look like warriors when they come out sometimes. So it's not that comfortable to be a baby. We try to provide the feelings that, like, you can cope, you can soothe, it'll be okay. So that's, again, just reiterating sort of the layers of importance of these smaller tasks, like these smaller but so important skills that we can offer. So even just staying calm when a baby isn't staying calm in this, or just knowing like why you're wrapping their arms, or why are we doing this, why are we creating this little womb. So I have Speedy all wrapped up, and I put the other tail sort of around Speedy's back. I'm going to kind of hold that with my arm. And then he's an extra little newborn, but usually we just have enough to fold it back up so his little feet are covered in too. And by this point, most babies are so much calmer, regulated. They like it. They like the restriction usually because it is just like that little womb that they used to have. So obviously we always like support their little head. I think it's nice to put to start with the back and like do little things. Like, we don't want like a wrinkly blanket. We want to be all tucked in, safe, and that's the communication that we're trying to express. And ideally this happens in a life, right? Ideally this happens. So what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? I think if, the best thing we can do is remember that when lives go awry a lot, or when people's hearts, maybe is a good way to say it, go awry, it can be because the things they needed when they were so small went awry. So that's a good place to start, because so this is episode 5 of this conversation. I have 2 more ideas, and sometimes they're hard, so I want to come back to once you were little, no matter what size you are right now, you matter. Once you were little, you were totally dependent on whatever happened to you, and let's address each and every one of those things, whether they were good or bad, and let's make you the strongest we can. Let's increase functioning, let's reduce distress, and let's live under a beautiful canopy of meaning. And when anything went wrong in those ways, let's help clients have tangible tools, even if they're things like a weighted blanket. That might even help for the lack of care that might have happened as a baby, or anything. Maybe you had a great babyhood, but maybe a weighted blanket is a nice self-soothing technique as an adult. What does the care we give a baby say on the flip side of what does the human need of care? What can we offer ourselves? What care can we offer ourselves? Our most important attachment is to ourselves. We are playing for an audience of one, and that is us. That is how we view and how we make meaning and take meaning from the situation. We can easily forget that. We could look at comments. We could, get feedback that's very negative. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, at the middle of the day, we're playing for an audience of one. It matters what we think. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. So we really need to work on our relationship with ourselves. So if something happened and you didn't have a good way to attach, make sure you caretake. Think of the ways that we soothe any small creature and do that for yourself. Your attachment matters. And then on the darker side, get ready for episode 6, when attachment doesn't work out, when our hearts are hurting, when things are hard. I'm thinking about any more resources we have. What do you guys think helps people to connect if attachment has gone awry, if they feel alienated? I think that humanity is being so creative about that. Even right now in the world of YouTube, I think ASMR videos are a world to just explore how people would like to reach out, nurture, or even just experience nurture from lots of different perspectives. I would also suggest a few books that I don't have here tangibly in front of me today, so I just want to list those to you. There's I Love You Rituals, which I mentioned. I would also suggest for clients that really want to dig into this on a deep level and maybe read something very in-depth. I like the book The Body Keeps the Score. It's really good. It's really well known, and not everything that happens to us is perfectly nurturing. I think it's okay for us to acknowledge that, and The Body Keeps the Score is a great book that talks about that. How do we heal the not nurturing, the not good things that happen? But we can, and we matter, and we should do that. Let's see. There's a book I want to read. It's called Lemonade Life, and it's very new. And it helps kids to discuss going back and forth between different homes. Maybe not every home is ideal. Maybe the things that they're really used to having for nurturing aren't happening in both environments, or maybe it's just different. Lemonade Life is supposed to be kind of about that. Then, what are the things in your community that you could suggest to people or that people use? It's great to remember. There's always crisis lines, but there's ways for us to connect before we feel so desolate and lonely too. Both ways. We should reach out when we do feel so, but how can we sort of prevent that feeling? I have a family member who's creating an equine therapy ranch for veterans who have served in the military or in war, either way. And that's something that she wants to build to people that it could help in any phase of life. And those things exist, and that's great. There's also, you know, going to a sangha or a church or a temple or a mosque or wherever, etc. There is I've also heard of the book and I have not read of this, so maybe someone is already a huge fan of this book, but it's called Have You Filled Your Bucket Today? And it's about relationships, attachment, sometimes when we're attached to people that drain us, and just ways to have skills, especially for kids. So I haven't read that yet, but I really want to, and it comes really highly recommended from a lot of people, so I feel like I can recommend it even, but I need to revisit it if maybe I've read it. I'm not sure. And then, oh, having a dog, having a cat, right? If you're pet people. And then I will link here as well, Cosmic Kids Yoga. Not everyone is a reader. Some of us, it doesn't matter how, you know, we have the old trope or the whatever we had before memes, but the dad with the little girl dancing on his feet, and just the ways that we connect as we develop. So if you have any ideas of that, but it's not always just like reading the, you know, in the perfect clean little child's bedroom, tucking the perfect blanket over that we see in movies, you know. And it doesn't even always have to be reading to your child or yourself. All these classic ways to self-soothe. It's not about that. It's about effective skills to reduce distress, increase functioning, and live under a canopy of better meaning. I probably say that too much, but it's so true. So, in that vein, you know, some people are just more physical, and I've never met a kid who didn't respond a little bit to Cosmic Kids Yoga, especially when a parent gets down on their level and does it with them. So I'll link that too, Cosmic Kids Yoga. So I'm gonna throw a lot of resources in this one. Probably won't list everything that I just talked about, but I just want to start the conversation, y'all, and I really appreciate you so much. You really matter. Your relationships really matter. The way you connect with clients, or if you're just a person, you know, not just a person, but just as a person on this earth, the way you connect with others matters. And I hope if you're interested in this, you might come back, and we can talk about my compass of attachment, which I'm trying to formulate and create, and some issues of affect, personality. I have 2 more of these written, and then I think the conversation's over until it maybe starts from others there in the community. But thank you for letting me share. And I'll be back with episode 6, The Dark Side. Bye, Speedy.